Tonight, as Israel wages war against Hezbollah, the region braces for Jerusalem's response to Iran's missile attack.
This was not just an escalation. It was a direct assault on our very existence.
Plus, the fight for life in Arizona.
It's a major battleground.
The abortion showdown that could have major implications for the 2024 election. And women in uniform.
How do we improve? How do we represent our communities? How do we make our communities feel safe?
The nationwide push to add more women to the police force. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
Beirut receiving the brunt of Israel's attacks as the fighting against Hezbollah intensifies. Good evening and welcome to Faith Nation from the CBN studio here in Washington, D.C. I'm John Jessup. Well, fighting in the Middle East escalating quickly and widespread evacuations happening throughout dozens of towns and villages in southern Lebanon as the IDF signals its ground invasion likely will expand. The move follows Iran's missile barrage into Israel earlier this week, the Jewish state now engaging in combat with militant terror organizations across Lebanon and Gaza. CBN's Brody Carter joins us next from Israel.
Well, John, Israel's bolstering its army along the Lebanon border, sending troops from 5 divisions. That's almost double the number of troops committed to fighting in Gaza, which signals the IDF is preparing for a serious fight with Hezbollah. Evacuation warnings have been issued to 20 towns in southern Lebanon, and foreign governments are pulling their citizens from the region. Today, Israeli fighter jets struck Hezbollah intelligence and communication sites in Beirut. When yesterday's attack that killed the Hezbollah commander behind a rocket strike that killed a dozen children in the Golan Heights earlier this year. All this while Israel continues to target Hamas positions in Gaza. Now, the G7 has expressed concern over a widening war involving Iran's allies. The State Department says America's position is to see a diplomatic resolution. However, they support Israel's offensive against Hezbollah.
It's not to speak to any one individual strike, because it is not like we are sitting and approving individual strikes, but we do approve of the Israeli government defending itself and defending its people from a terrorist organization that has continued to, that began this conflict with them on October 8th, forced tens of thousands of people to flee their homes, also has been a destabilizing force in Lebanon. We do support them taking military action to bring those terrorists to justice. Terrorists to justice. Terrorists to justice.
These growing conflicts are increasingly dynamic and unpredictable. The State Department was tight-lipped about any specifics on targets or Israel's game plan. I guess we'll just have to watch how it all unfolds. John?
Sure thing there, Brody. So
Sure
with
thing
Rosh
there,
Hashanah underway,
Brody. So
with Rosh Hashanah underway, explain why that raises concerns about escalating the conflict during the Jewish New Year.
While Rosh Hashanah itself isn't historically linked to violence, Jewish holidays have at times been exploited by hostile groups due to large gatherings and a focus on worship. Israel faces ongoing threats from Gaza. With rocket attacks from Hamas, Hezbollah is increasing presence in Lebanon and Iran's backing of these groups. So during religious observances like Rosh Hashanah, security concerns are heightened as these adversaries often see these moments as opportunities to disrupt and escalate tensions. Now, Israeli security forces, they remain on high alert to prevent further attacks from Iran, which backs both Hezbollah and Hamas militants. John?
All right, CBN's Brody Carter. Thank you so much, Brody. Well, here at home, former President Trump's legal team is objecting to an October surprise document dump. Wednesday, a U.S. district judge made public a 165-page court filing laying out special counsel Jack Smith's argument in the election subversion case against former President Trump, saying that it should go forward, despite the Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity.
What this filing intends to do is to convince a judge that everything that Trump did in his failed effort to cling to power was done in his capacity as a private citizen as opposed to a president.
Now, the former president's lawyers are demanding adequate time to respond to the extensive filing, calling it a, quote, enormous undertaking. Well, this November, voters in the key battleground of Arizona will weigh in on a historic ballot measure on abortion. Despite staunch support, there's concern among Republicans that some pro-life voters may stay home on Election Day. CBN's Tara Mergener explains why from Phoenix.
Amid stunning desert landscapes and peaceful red rock vistas, a political drama is unfolding. At stake, a ballot measure on abortion rights that could influence one of 2024's most contested states. Proposition 139 seeks to allow abortions up to 24 weeks, overturning the state Supreme Court's decision to reinstate a 15-week limit.
Abortion access will officially be on Arizona's ballot.
State GOP Chair Gina Swoboda says the timing is no coincidence.
That's why the left put it on the ballot. I think they put it on the ballot to drive their turnout. Outside groups are going to spend $100 million in Arizona just on that abortion measure.
The legal landscape has grown more turbulent here since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022, eliminating the federal right to abortion.
The state of Arizona went back to the 1864 territorial law, which banned abortion in all situations except for the life of the mother, and in fact criminalized the performance of abortions. We saw very quickly that particularly Republicans in swing areas saw that that was likely an untenable position to be competitive in their overall races.
According to a CBS poll, 65% of Arizonians favor making abortion a constitutional right.
Roe v. Wade was an abomination. But in the meantime, we sort of lost the culture. People didn't understand why every life has value, why every life should be protected. And so that's what we've got to focus on now. And it starts with young people.
National pro-abortion groups are hoping the momentum will help them convince voters to remove 2 state Supreme Court justices who upheld the state's abortion ban.
We've never have not retained a Supreme Court justice. I think we've only 1 or 2 cases of any judge at the superior court or level have ever not survived a retention vote. They're very far and in between. Another issue that kind of elevates some down ballot issues.
The abortion initiative on the November ballot could have ramifications beyond Arizona, spotlighting a key contrast in the presidential race.
Vice President Kamala Harris, a proponent of the White House's pro-choice agenda, going up against former President Donald Trump, who appointed 3 justices who helped overturn Roe, making Arizona ground zero in the debate. Pundits say a victory for abortion rights here could shift public opinion across the country in states where the issue is contentious.
Those of us who might live outside those states, it doesn't mean that we're exempt from what's going on there. We still have a stake in that battle.
While the debate is seen as mobilizing Democrats, pro-life advocates fear a large portion of their key voting bloc will not turn out.
We need to talk to the faith-based community. Like 60 to 80% of regular churchgoers don't vote. If this issue is your issue, you need to vote, you need to register.
A new Arizona Christian University poll reveals that 1/3 of evangelicals nationwide do not participate in elections, potentially costing Republicans millions of votes.
It's a major battleground. This is one of those states that needs a lot of prayer from Christians around the country. If we're going to see America turn back to God, we've got to be looking at states like Arizona, because this is where the front lines are of that political and social battle and spiritual battle.
In a state where politics and the life issue intersect, Arizona's decision on November 5th could have far-reaching consequences, lasting long after the election. In Phoenix, Arizona, Tara Mergener, CBN News.
And Chief Political Analyst David, welcome to you. So the statistic that caught my attention in Tara's piece there was 65% of people living in Arizona favor making abortion a constitutional right. Now, Arizona is just one of several states with an abortion measure on the ballot this November. How much of a factor do you anticipate abortion to play in the 2024 race?
Well, it's going to be a factor, and John, you're right. It was good to pick up on that stat. Here's another stat for you, 17%. It is polling the abortion issue, not the ballot measure, but how important is abortion in Arizona? 17% of voters say it's very important. 26% say the economy. Then comes immigration at 19% and abortion right behind it at 17%. So look, It's no doubt going to be a factor. I will say this, that it won't be as much of a factor, I think, in Arizona as it will be in North Carolina and Georgia. If you look at those polls, abortion even higher than the immigration issue in North Carolina and Georgia. In Arizona, though, the abortion issue falls to number 3 there. So, look, bottom line is it's going to be very, very close.
Well, you know, the media is all over the unsealed court filing against former President Donald Trump. It looks like Special Prosecutor Jack Smith's attempt to salvage his case after the Supreme Court ruled this past summer that presidents are immune from prosecution for official acts. David, do you think the new revelations could do anything to hurt President Trump's bid against Vice President Kamala Harris?
Not a lick. Look, they've been trying to do this to Trump. And when I say do this, I'm talking about create this narrative and this fact set with the J6 committee and all of that to, in essence, say that Trump led an insurrection. The problem is that it comes across as very political, and especially when you're going to drop an affidavit like this and unseal it right before the election. That also comes across as political. And Trump's been very good at creating the narrative that this is a weaponized system of justice. And the truth of the matter is, one thing that wasn't in the J6 report, one thing that's not even in Jack Smith's affidavit here, is that Donald Trump said it's time to march peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol. Look, if that's not in the report, that's an important part of information here, not in the report. I think voters understand that. This has become very political. You want to blame Donald Trump? You can blame Donald Trump. But the facts are the facts and the politics are the politics. And I think this has become way too political, and I think voters understand that. So I don't think it'll have much impact.
David, it's hard to believe, but we're just 32 days away from Election Day. Can you talk about the shape of the 2024 race, not just for the White House, but also the down-ballot races that would affect the balance of power right here in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, well, look, it's all close, is the bottom line. Quickly to the presidential race, Kamala Harris might be tight with Trump on the national front in some of these battleground states, or all these battleground states. The problem for Harris is that she's underperforming in certain Democrat demographics. Try saying that 5 times fast. For example, Hispanics, she's only up 12, actually 14 points, excuse me. But that is not good enough. That's not going to do it. With the African-American vote, same thing. She's down about 5-7 points where Biden was. The Jewish vote, it just goes on and on. She's underperforming, John, and that's the problem.
Well, David,
as for down ballot races, it'll go hand in hand.
I wish we had more time. David, CBN's chief political analyst, thank you so much for your analysis.
You bet.
Coming up, as the work to restore power continues in parts of the Southeast, a fuller picture of the damage comes into view. The scope of the recovery effort when Faith Nation returns.
He became a voice for the common man.
In a matter of months, Luther became a household word.
Nobody knows what happened to him. Luther disappears.
He became a European-wide phenomenon.
Luther would influence hundreds, if not thousands, of leaders, ministers, thinkers in his day and after him.
Martin Luther. Get your DVD for a gift of any dollar amount.
Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Watch breaking news unfold in Israel and delve into exclusive detailed reports. You won't find it anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, because truth matters. Visit watchcbnnews.com to find where to watch.
Welcome back. Search and rescue efforts continue in the southeast a week after Hurricane Helene slammed into the region. The number of those killed is now more than 200 in what's being described as the second deadliest storm this century. The casualty count could climb with hundreds still missing. Meanwhile, more than 1 million people remain powerless. Historic floods destroyed entire neighborhoods in hard-hit North Carolina. National Guard troops are there now providing critical aid to survivors. President Biden surveyed the destruction in Florida today after visiting the Carolinas Wednesday.
The nation has your back. We're not leaving your back on your feet completely.
CBN's Operation Blessing is in Asheville, North Carolina, passing out water, food boxes, hygiene kits, and other supplies. Teams are also at work in Valdosta, Georgia, serving hot food and clearing debris left by Helene's path of destruction. Well, CBN's Operation Blessing is working to bring aid to the hardest hit victims. To learn more about the work and to find out how you can help, visit ob.org. Well, about 50,000 dock workers are on the picket lines, closing down shipping ports along the East Coast and the Gulf of Mexico. Economic experts predict the strikes could cost the economy as much as $5 billion a day. They also anticipate crimps in the supply chain will create shortages and higher prices for consumers.
You could start seeing shortages with respect to things like vegetables and fruits and things that are perishable that they've got to get in and out quickly. But it's going to, the longer it goes on, the worse it could get, and more products are going to be affected.
Items that might become scarce include perishables like bananas and cherries, as well as cocoa, sugar, and imported wine. The dock workers are seeking higher wages and protections from automation. Well, a growing number of people are applying for unemployment benefits. The latest numbers out today from the Labor Department show new jobless claims rose by about 6,000 compared to the week prior, hitting 225,000 applications. That's about 4,000 more than economic analysts predicted, but still historically low. On Friday, the Labor Department will release September's jobs report. It's expected to show modest gains. Wall Street economists predict about 150,000 jobs were added to the economy last month. Well, next on Faith Nation, the 30 by 30 initiative. What's fueling the drive for police departments to recruit 30% more female officers? Stay tuned.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone, and the new has come. Has Jesus changed your life? We'd love to hear your story and celebrate it by sharing it with others. You never know how your story could change someone's life.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place, all day, every day. The CBN News Channel. Download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com. CBN News.
Welcome back. A movement is underway to increase a certain demographic in the ranks of America's police force. More than 360 departments across the country are working to boost women recruits 30% by the year 2030. As CBN's Caitlin Burke reports, research shows more female officers could lead to fewer cases of excessive force and greater community confidence in those called to serve and protect.
Policing has long been a male-dominated profession and likely will remain so. Still, a major shift is happening as departments recognize that having more female representation benefits both the police force and the community.
Women make up less than 13% of police officers, a number that hasn't changed much in the past 20 years.
A decade ago, while serving as the Newark police chief, Yvonne Roman noticed a disturbing trend.
I started monitoring recruits as they cycled through police academies in the state of New Jersey. And I found that women were failing at rates between 65 and 80% due to varying aspects of the physical fitness test.
This discovery led Roman to begin boot camp sessions for female recruits to better prepare them for the test. The result? Each woman she helped train graduated. Still, Roman felt the need to go further. In 2018, she and Maureen McGow of the National Institute of Justice took a closer look at women in law enforcement. Their research found an underrepresentation, resulting in the 30 by 30 initiative.
It is a roadmap for improving both the representation and experiences of women officers.
The goal is for women to represent 30% of police recruits by the year 2030, and departments nationwide are pledging support.
The LAPD proudly joins over 40 law enforcement agencies across the nation who have signed the 30 by 30 pledge.
We're very proud that the City of Fargo will be going in this direction.
We hope your decision to take this pledge motivates other departments to follow in your footsteps.
I think the initiative is just an incredible opportunity to really promote women.
The 30 by 30 initiative provides research highlighting how adding more females will lead to better overall law enforcement. For example, statistics show police women less likely to use or be accused of using excessive force. They're also less likely to be named in a lawsuit or citizen complaint and can be more successful in diffusing violent or aggressive behavior.
Law enforcement has been looked at under that microscopic lens of how do we improve, how do we represent our communities, how do we make our communities feel safe? And I think that the reason why this is having the success that it is having is because people see the importance behind it and the fact that women are valued and that we do have a place.
The Montgomery County Police Department has already reached about 20% female representation in both academy classes and on the force. Lieutenant Tanisha Jensen believes, however, that increasing those numbers will require a change in perception.
Females may feel that they can't have that work-life balance, that they can't do the job of a police officer, that it will be too demanding and too competitive with trying to have a family, with trying to be a mom. Are the standards, is there equity between men and women as far as just different positions, whether that's lateral positions in the department or rising through the ranks by promotion? And I think that we have to break those barriers.
There's also a need for departments to offer benefits and a culture that women find attractive.
One of the things that our department has done for several years is a job share program. And that's where an officer can split and divide their position and their hours with another officer. That would equal to working 20 hours a week as opposed to 40 hours a week.
Other positive moves already being put into place include mentorship programs, affordable child care centers, and better parental leave.
One of the things I would like departments to see that some do, but not a lot, is that they gear their training toward the sexes having a better understanding of each other.
Veteran trainer Betsy Brantner-Smith tells CBN News achieving a change in culture would also lead to having the most effective police force possible.
Police officers need to be able to de-escalate. Women do that naturally and are good at teaching it, and we are good at modeling it. Why do we not teach men that women are good at this? Why do we not teach women that they are good at this? And we don't teach the women anything about how men do things, how men communicate, how men fight, how men shoot.
Brantner-Smith also stresses that while greater female representation would benefit the force, the focus must ultimately be on hiring qualified police officers.
When we're talking about a profession like law enforcement, where a police officer has the authority and the power and the skills to take a human life, we do not want to hire people based on their sex.
A key goal of this initiative is for participating agencies to share promising practices, learn from one another, and ultimately develop policies that achieve a more balanced force and, in turn, safer communities. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Montgomery County, Maryland.
Thank you, Caitlin. Coming up, an art show unlike any other. Next on Faith Nation.
I believe the time has come to begin a battle of annihilation.
In these 3 weeks, people felt like there is going to be a second Holocaust.
If we break through those walls now, the whole world will stand on its head.
To be right here, Mota, and not to go in, history will never forgive you.
Are you gone crazy? You'll set the whole Middle East on fire.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place, all day, every day. The CBN News Channel. Download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com. CBN News.
Finally tonight, Baltimore Zoo is making a name for itself selling one-of-a-kind art created by its very own residents. The Maryland Zoo is enlisting the help of penguins, otters, and giraffes to raise money for conservation efforts, as you can see there. The animals first walk through what's called non-toxic paint, of course, to keep them safe, and then they're let loose to roam over sheets of paper, forming designs with unique streaks and smears. Animal lovers who buy the artwork also receive a photo of the artist and certificate of authenticity. The zoo says 100% of the proceeds go to education and animal care for endangered species, and that is pretty darn cool. Well, thank you so much for watching this edition of Faith Nation. We hope to see you right back here tomorrow.